This is the Symposium podcast with Wright and Romero.
All right. So here we are in the cloud. You know, breezy. We're just going to get going here. In the middle of the host, could you tell the people who you are, sir?
Hello, my name is Jake Sherbing. I'm a mental health practitioner here in the cloud, St. Cloud to be specific.
Pew, 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 pew. Jake, thank you for coming on. We greatly appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
It's gone.
And just like that, our background is gone.
You son of a... you son of a bitch. You do your goddamn job.
Oh, man.
No, I'm disappointed.
I thought we had it.
We do.
It's going to be great for everybody.
There it is.
Audience. Maybe. There it is.
What the hell is that?
You click something. Just exit. You see the little red? Yeah.
No. Okay, we're good.
For our listening audience.
Right.
Yeah, for the listening audience.
Our background has disappeared. Or their background, I guess. I'm just a guest of this show.
Jake has decided he's going to be a co-host now.
for this podcast.
Yeah. But like I was saying, now I got to watch this.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, let's get going. What do you do as a mental health practitioner?
I was really like, damn, what is that, actually?
Yeah, so but for the listening audience and here, a mental health practitioner, I go home to home working with clients. For me specifically, I work with children, help build the skills, help with teaching parents and other caregivers just kind of how to manage their child, essentially.
Yeah.
Or help build skills to help them, parent and help kids,
Do their thing,
Yeah,
pretty
do their
much.
thing.
Okay. And just to be clear, when it comes to a mental health practitioner, there are two areas, right? You have ARMS, which is for adults,
Yep.
and then you have CTSS, which is for kids.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, please jump in and help me explain this.
Yes. So I am also in
We work
MHP.
together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We're in cahoots.
Yeah. It's tight. Okay.
But yeah. So, but you're not on the ARM side. You're more on the CTSS
Yep.
side.
All CTS. I haven't worked with ARMS, but I'm interested in.
Your
so-
time will come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ARMS is adults?
Yep.
So is that the side you're on or you're on?
That's the side that I'm.
you do
I'm
both.
mixed. Yeah, I do both.
Okay.
But I lean towards ARMS. But yeah, kids are fun though.
Yeah.
They can be. they can be.
You never know what's going to happen with kids.
Yeah, I've already shared some stories about elopement and fucking up my knee.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
think I've heard the fucking up your knee part.
I'll play the episode for you.
All right.
I was going to say that was about to go. Y'all keep talking.
All right.
Goddamn technology. It's the screensaver, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll keep going while my man E adjusts that. So question for you here. One of the things that we've talked about is as a mental health practitioner, you not only working with kids and stuff, but you kind of having some similar, say, traits maybe?
Yeah, for sure.
Want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so when I was about 7 or 8, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And as an adult in therapy, talked to my therapist, and I still have all the traits of ADD, not so much ADHD. I am in the process of getting diagnosed or getting looked at getting diagnosed, but as you know, with ADHD, it doesn't go away.
Right.
Or I guess the H goes away, but the attention deficit disorder doesn't necessarily go away.
So then, compared to your childhood, what does it look like in adulthood?
It's such a hard question to answer because it's just so with ADHD for me when people so I saw the topic that you had in the text message where it's like growing up with ADHD. It was such a hard concept because for me it wasn't growing up with ADHD. For me it's just growing up. For me this is just normal life.
Yeah.
And so when people are like, "What is normal?" I don't know what the fuck normal is when it comes to like neurotypical adults or kids. Like, I don't know. I can only compare myself to other people and kind of get an idea of what that is.
Sure, that's a fair response. But what about the knowledge that knowing about ADHD, right?
Yeah.
You know about certain behaviors.
Yep.
And what you call normal might not be what it is to a typical person, right?
Yeah. So I see it a lot in my clients. It seems like a lot of my clients who have autism, they have attention deficit disorder or hyperactive ADHD.
Words are hard. Yeah. Gotcha.
So some of the traits I notice is like one thing that I used to do as a kid. I had speech problems, and listeners can probably hear it a little bit. I tend to mumble a lot. It's hard for me to articulate words sometimes. And some of the kids that I work with, they'll come up and be like, da 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 da, and I'm like, I'll turn to mom like, what did he just say? And he's like, da 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 da, and mom's like, fuck do I know? And that was one of the early struggles that I had, is I couldn't like talk. And I remember this story that my mom always tells me.
Wait, before you do, sorry, just adjust this a little bit.
All right.
Sorry, man.
No, good.
Okay.
So one of the stories that my mom always tells me is one with my late grandpa. He used to call me Jakey.
Yeah.
And one day I came up to him and I was like, "Don't call me." And he's like, "What did you say?" I'm like, ah. And he turned to my mom. He's like, "What is he saying?" He's like, "Oh, he's saying, don't call me Jakey. He doesn't like it."
Yeah.
And so growing up, I did a lot of speech classes. Went to preschool early on to help build those skills. I rode in the special van to school.
Nice.
And then once my speech got better, I was part of the regular general classes. And then around when I was 7 or 8, I don't really remember so much because this was second grade, but I remember my teacher just constantly getting on me, constantly yelling at me. I just thought she was kind of like a hag of a teacher.
Sure.
And but she brought it to my parents' attention that she thinks I had ADHD. Went in and get tested, find out that they diagnosed me with ADHD. Started taking medicine for it. I don't really remember this, but my parents they kind of just told me that when I'm on that medicine, I wasn't the same person. I was very mellow. Wasn't that hyperactive child that they're used to. I was just calm. But they had me on it during school days just so I could focus and sit down.
Right.
And then when I was in third grade, the teacher really kind of like drew to my strengths. So I was really, really good at math. When it comes to those addition tables, multiplication, like I was probably top of my class, if not like 2 or 3, getting those done right away. I don't know if you had those competitions where it's like, who can get done first? I was always like the first one. And if I was very much
last. I was last.
And same with like reading. I was always ahead. So this teacher was, when I got done, typically I would get bored and then I would start acting up. But she was very much like, oh, hey, this is what we're working on next week. And next week, she kept giving me more things. The screen is bothering you.
Yeah, it's... Turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
We're not meant to have good things, I guess.
No.
Not yet. You will grab that. Technical difficulties as usual.
So, just kind of continue the story of, I guess, my childhood with ADHD or like my experience with it.
Yeah.
In 5th grade, my parents started wanting to take me off of it. My teacher, who actually has ADHD at the time, I didn't know it, but like now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, he definitely had ADHD. He was a very hyperactive teacher, great teacher. But they worked together to get me off of it. And then after that, my ADHD kind of became just an afterthought. Like I forgot about it for about 15 years until a couple of years recently.
Yeah. Okay. And I like that you mentioned that the teacher, sort of played to your strengths in certain ways. Because one thing that I kind of wonder about, especially now in your field, how do you use your strengths? Yeah.
So if I see a kid who's motivated towards, especially because we were talking earlier, if they're like into, like if they really, really want to play Minecraft for that reward afterwards, I bring up that reward. And if they, let's say, want to do things a certain way, I lean into that. So like my one client who we're working on early morning chores, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I'm going to get up early and I'm going to get all this done. And nobody believed that he was going to do it. And I was like, okay, if you do it, our set, like if you get everything done before I get here, yeah, we'll just play the entire session.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time he did it at midnight, and then the second time he got up at 7 and actually
Did it?
And I was like, cool, all right, we're not doing anything except for playing. That's like because you did what you said you do. So I try to lead into their motivations and I try to lead into their strengths.
Okay, that's good.
And then just keep them interested and engaged. It can be hard because when it comes to ADHD, one of the main things is you lose your motivation easily. So you get bored very, very easily. And we can kind of talk about like the pillar. I don't know what it's called, the pillars. There's like 4 main motivation. Okay. And I watched this YouTube video, and the way they described it is it's like a bridge, right? And everybody has the same bridge. And there's 4 motivations. Everyone has the same motivations to cross this bridge, and the motivations are planks along this like wooden bridge, the wooden swing bridge.
Uh-huh.
Like in cartoons, it seems like they're like the characters are always trying to cross this wood bridge. I'm thinking like Pokemon specifically because it's like every episode they're crossing the bridge and the bridge falls and they go into this giant cavern. I'm like, why the fuck is all these bridges here? Like, where is modern technology in the show? But anyway, so the 4 motivations is there's pressure. There's like a deadline. It's like immediate, like homework is due tomorrow. Okay, we gotta get this done. Mm-hmm. There is interest, like what interests you? What are you engaged with? What do you like? There's new and novel. So is it exciting? Is it different? And then there's challenging. Does it challenge you?
Okay.
And so what happens is on this bridge, everyone will every once in a while will lose different planks. But when it comes to neurotypical kids and neurotypical adults, it's only a few planks, and it's not that the bridge is hard to cross, but it's crossable. Like you just have to step over those planks. But when it comes to ADHD, it's not just a few planks; it's like half the bridge is gone. And and sometimes it's really hard to cross that bridge. And it can be things that you've done before. It can be things that like you easily crossed this bridge in the past, and it was no problem before. But then you get to it like a couple of weeks later, and you just can't cross it. And for a while before I realized I still had ADHD and realized, hey, it's still a thing, I was always left wondering, like, why can't I finish this paper right now? Why can't I finish this story that I want to finish? Why can't I
basically just finish a task?
Yeah, why can't I mow lawn or something like that? Why can't I put dishes away right now? It's hard.
Sure.
So it's like half your bridge is gone, and it's like I can't cross this bridge. But like if you don't understand it, it's like you just don't know.
So, do you have any questions at all?
I was just gonna ask if you could answer. What does a typical session look like for you with like the kids you work with?
So, not to get into any like specifics, but typically I start the session out just saying, "Hey, what's going on? How's your week been? Or how's it been? How have you been since I last seen you?" I'll talk to parents. Typically, just get a sense of what's happening. Then we would work on different skills, whatever they're working on. Do that for about 30 minutes to an hour. It really depends. And then after that, if they're able to do what we were needing to do, then we would usually spend the remaining part of the session just playing or doing whatever they want to do.
Okay.
But it really depends too on the session. If I'm working with kids specifically, that's what it looked like. If I'm working with parents,
so it's either or. Okay.
Yeah, well, like the kid is my client, but a lot of times it's helping parents manage their children. I feel like manage is not the right word. Was there a better word than manage?
You're helping the parents navigate how to tend to the child.
Yep.
Okay.
And help build their skills. So
family skills.
Every session's different.
Okay.
Or every client is different, but that's the general layout.
Yeah. I mean, you can plan for a session, right? And you can have everything down to a T. But once you go into the session, it might not be the way you planned it to.
You just kind of got to play it
play by ear.
I learned just to be flexible. Because before I was a mental health practitioner, I was a behavior technician. I worked in applied behavior analysis.
Okay.
And it's very similar. You rapport build, you do pairing,
Yeah.
And then you do different programming, and then in between that you rapport build, and you can have a very good idea what's going on. But
Yeah.
like when you work with kids who are autistic or who have ADHD, you just got to play with their motivations.
Gotcha.
So I learned that you have to be very, very flexible. So have a general plan of what you want to do, but then you got to adapt.
Be
on the
ready
fly.
to just go off if you need to go off the schedule. Okay.
And that's why it's hard to work with kids sometimes, because you got to constantly adjust. You have no idea what their mood is, what they're like, what their motivation is.
Right.
With
And
ADHD.
what age range?
Currently, I mean, 3 to like 18 for kids.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. My experience, I worked from, I think the youngest was 3, the oldest 55.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, definitely got quite the experience.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in your field, I'm sure you've worked with a variety of children yourself, because you tell me stories, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've worked with people who are ADHD, or excuse me,
Man.
who had ADHD.
Oh, for sure.
Can I flip the script real
For sure.
quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. What do you do for a living?
I work at a high school. I'm a special education teacher.
Forgot his title for a second.
I really did.
All right, so you're definitely very much in the same field. All right.
So that's why I'm like, oh, okay. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See. But to go back to talking about challenges and some of the things that you experienced growing up, I'm curious to know how that affected you in terms of relationships. Not even just dating, but just building friendships. How did that go for you?
Yeah. I never really had a hard time making friends. I think that was always a skill set for me. I could talk to kids. Mm-hmm. I had my group of friends, and it was always growing and evolving. I think the hard thing is I definitely attracted attention to a lot of bullies. So I did get bullied a lot as a kid, and I never really quite understood why. ADHD might be a part of it. I could have been viewed as like annoying or that hyperactive kid. I could see myself being targeted for that reason.
Okay.
I don't really quite, I didn't ask them like, hey, why are you constantly picking on me?
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah, like why would you be targeted just because you're bopping around? I don't know. That's
Kids, man.
Yeah.
Kids are idiots, man.
But I guess but I was always the person who fought back to the bullies, so it never like lasted long.
Oh, yeah, okay.
solid.
So like if I got picked on, I picked back. Like I fought back.
Yeah.
Good.
So it was never like a long lasting thing, but it was definitely like I had my few fights.
There, you had moments.
Yeah,
You
where
had-
I was targeted for like months, a couple of weeks or months, and then it would like end.
Okay. Well, then, what about your relationships? How was that for you?
Yeah, so where do we start? Because I have like over a decade of stories when it comes to relationships.
Holy shit. What?
But I guess so recently my sister, my middle sister, she got recently diagnosed with ADHD, and that surprised me. Because I never viewed her as someone who was hyperactive or like had a attention deficit disorder, but it made sense when I thought about it. Mm-hmm. Especially with girls growing up, they never really get diagnosed. They have trouble. Like the signs aren't as obvious when it comes to like males. We're always hyperactive. We're bouncing around. Mm-hmm. Whereas with females, they learn to cope and mask a little bit differently, and so it's harder to diagnose, especially back then. So she was recently diagnosed. My youngest sister hasn't been diagnosed, but it's pretty obvious that she has it. Mm-hmm. So our thinking is all three of us have ADHD. And so one of the things about all three of us is we have the tendency to bounce from relationship to relationship to relationship.
Okay.
So anytime one of us would get broken up with or we would dump the other person, we were in a relationship within like 2-3 weeks after that.
God damn.
Yeah, and that was all three of us. I actually hold the record between the three of us of longest. Originally, it was 88 days. I even counted. So it was 88 days, and then a few years ago, I made a conscious effort to not date anyone for like the longest time until I met the right person.
Nice.
And so I waited I didn't wait, but like I was single for about 15 months, and that was really, really weird for me to like.
Yeah. What's that like for you in that time?
It was hard because initially after getting out of a relationship, and this was the toxic relationship that I was telling you about previously, I did jump in another relationship, but I made it sure it was nothing serious. And she very much was like that, like I don't want anything like long term. And I kept fighting myself trying to push for it long term because I wanted that someone because I felt like I needed it. But I was like, no, it's not good. Like my logical brain's like, no, it's not like we're not right for each other. You don't need a relationship right now. You just need to take time for yourself. But that other part of the brain's like, no, you need somebody. So it was hard at first. But after a while, it got easier, and I enjoyed being by myself. Whereas once I got back into a relationship, I was like, I kind of miss like living by myself and not having to worry about entertaining or not just like worrying about being with somebody else. Because when you're living alone, you do your thing. And
Yeah, it's just you, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And it is entertaining someone in a way, especially when you don't really see a future with that person, like long term. But to hear that you would go from like one relationship to another, there's not much time in between. Where does that stem from? Like I know we're talking about ADHD, but there has to be more to it.
Yeah. So before like ADHD kind of became a thing, because I didn't really realize I had ADHD for about 2 years ago. Like I knew I had it, but I never realized it affected me throughout my adult life. And we can get more into that later. But I'm sorry, what was the question? By the way, that is an ADHD thing too, where I lose track of the topic itself.
So talking about relationships and not really having much time in between relationships.
Yeah. So I always thought it was like my parents, because growing up, my parents had a pretty healthy relationship. They're always together. And for me, specifically, I always, like, growing up, I was like, oh, yeah, I just want to, like, find that person like my parents have. I want to, like, meet that person in high school, get married, and have kids right away, because that's what they did.
Right.
And so was always, like, the dream of mine. Mm-hmm. And that was always the dream of, like, my sisters, too. And so that's what we all tried to do, but we all failed miserably at it. At least with, like, our high school relationships.
Sure, yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know. I can't tell you where the ADHD part comes into it or why it's an ADHD thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is, but I'm not sure why.
Sure.
And just for the listeners, I'm not an ADHD expert at all. I'm just somebody who has it and deals with it.
And just talking from your perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a man with ADHD.
Exactly.
Do you have any questions at all, E?
No. I'm
Okay. Well, one of the things that I was thinking about is, what about, why can't I think of this word? Impulsivity? How do you say that word?
Sounded right to me.
Fucking, I need a dictionary. Like impulsiveness, right?
Yeah.
Where does that come in?
Yeah. So the impulsiveness is just like the urge to go off a whim.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for the most part, I have a pretty good control of it. But we were talking before we started taping, like the Minecraft thing. Like I had clients who are like really into it, and I got really, really into it, and so I caved and bought it, and then been playing pretty much since I bought it. Stayed up till 2:30 a.m. Played about 6 hours. I didn't even realize what time it was. Me and my girlfriend were playing. She fell asleep on the couch, and then she woke me up. It was like, Jake, it's 2:30. I'm like, oh, okay, shit, I gotta go to bed.
So, my next question for you is, what was my next question? See, I have to think back myself. So now, as an adult, I mean, I know that you're taking some sort of medication, right? And you've been doing that since you were a kid.
Mm-mm.
You're not?
No medication.
So then that brings me to my question. What are your sort of routines or strategies to tend to that?
Yeah, so I didn't really have a whole lot of routine or strategies. I kind of just live. So it's kind of a hard question to ask. or answer, I should say. A lot of it was self-medication. So I used to drink a lot.
Uh-huh.
So not to the point where I'm getting drunk every night, but just enough to like slow everything down. So that's a lot of what I did. And it ended up being not so much like an addiction problem, but this is how addiction comes into play with ADHD.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, because like when it comes to like we get attached to things, we get attached to certain hobbies or substances where we just need that constant filler.
Yeah.
Like if you, phones is definitely like I'm constantly on my phone.
Yeah.
So a lot of the or some of my routines is giving me that time to kind of go off those impulses to medicate. So when I get home, typically I'll spend an hour or two by myself just doing what I need to do, either on my phone, just relaxing. And then just when I'm in the moment where I need to do something, trying to focus.
Okay.
What's so the no medication part? What was that like? Was it just like you like saying like, well, you wanted to stay away from medication? Or
No. So I had medication when I was a kid, and my
Yeah.
parents wanted me off of it because I was very much a different kid when I was on it. I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
very mellow. I was very just
Yeah.
not
Just
myself.
not yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so for like I said, 15 years, because I was off of it when I was 10,
okay,
and then I kind of like my hyperactivity part of it
Yeah.
went down, and so for 15 years, was it 10? I'm 29. I didn't know about it till 17 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it, so I just lived life as normal,
Right.
and just kind of coped and dealt with it as I went along. I didn't really realize it was I had ADHD problems. I thought it was just normal problems.
yeah,
So yeah.
All right. So kind of talking about technology, right?
Yep.
Just being on your phone. Kids, I mean, it's one thing for us, the way that we grew up,
yeah.
but like they're just in it.
Yeah.
Like
for
it's,
sure.
you can't turn off social media. It's always there. The internet,
Yeah,
you turn it on, like you can't turn it off.
definitely.
For kids who are coming up and who have ADHD, from what you've seen,
Yep.
what are some challenges for them when it comes to like basically technology?
Yeah, so it's being hooked on it. 'Cause you need that substance, you need that like that thing you attach to. So the challenge is for kids is once they're into it, they're engaged, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to like lean off of that. I guess like with my own clients, I haven't really seen too much of that. For the most part, they're pretty good at least with the clients I work with, they're pretty good at coming off of that. And as long as you replace it with something that's exciting, right?
Sure.
So, like, if they're playing a game, we're getting to work. Like, the promise is like, hey, we can get back to it, and I get to play with you. And that's their reward. Like, oh, hey, like if I do this, not only I can go back to it, Jake is going to join me, and that's a lot of fun.
Okay. Nice. So it's mainly like you said
But like,
before.
yeah, but like you see it with a lot of clients, or like with kids who don't have like those skills, or who aren't who aren't in the system yet to help with those skills. They come in, they're attached to tablets.
Yeah.
Especially if parents who use like the tablets as like their saving grace to like distract them, which like now kind of somewhat being a parent now with my stepson, like, oh, I understand like why people why parents use tablets or TV and screens to help, because when they're on and they're attached on it, it's such a break. So I understand like why parents do this, but sometimes there's an over reliance on it, and once those kids are just attached to it,
Yeah.
it's so hard to break them off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard because I've seen it like the worst is worse. There was two clients who were just they're brothers. They came in. They like if you took the screen away, they're throwing fists.
Yeah. There's
it's-
hell for it.
Yeah, and it took years to even like get them a little bit off of it, where they're like they can get off a few like 10, 15 minutes without it, but it's still like they need it. Like it was definitely it comes across as like I don't want to say addiction, but like it's such a needed thing.
Yeah, there's something there that the way that I see it is, and it's not just kids, but anyone really who is attached to some form of technology.
Yeah.
just like you said, you come home from work and you're on your phone. You're trying to wind down. There's something about this that is soothing.
Soothing.
Yeah.
For sure.
So-
I play a lot of Pokemon Go, and that's like my soothingness. Like that's what soothes me. Is I'll go after work. I'm just driving around. And I'm playing. And if I need like that moment of calm, like I'm going. Like if I need that moment away from the household because my stepson or like my girlfriend. Love them both, but sometimes you just need a break.
You need a break.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna go out and I'm just gonna drive around for like an hour, and that's my soothingness. That's like that helps calm with the ADHD. So I guess to go back to answer that question, that's one of the things that I do is I find healthy activities that help me like calm down. That kind of turns off the brain
Kind
a
of
little
slow
bit.
everything down a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a lot of basically what it is. It's just finding that what can slow down the brain, what can. Because with ADHD, like especially when it's really, really bad, this week it's been really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I don't even notice it half the time. Like I just live, and when I look back, I'm like, oh, I was very hyperactive at that moment. Oh, my brain is just firing constantly with different thoughts and ideas. And sometimes it's overwhelming, where like you just need something to just like shut it off.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned it, and I completely forgot about it. Can you tell E about your experience with Pokemon Go and how you do not fuck around?
Yeah.
Go.
All right. God, where do I start? There's a whole lot there. So, Pokemon Go, how much do you know about it?
I actually when it like first came out, I was doing it for a while.
Yep.
So I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah, so I've been playing pretty much since it started. Every once in a while, I'll take like a month or two off where I'm I don't play that.
Yeah.
I'm very casual with it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a casual player. So one of the things I do is I like taking gyms. I like golding gyms, right? So I'll drive around, and basically, in order to gold gym, you either have to be in it for about 21 days, or you have to do what is a raid. You have to do 30 raids, or you have to feed it. I don't know, like 10,000 berries or something. I don't know what the numbers are. Or just a mixture of all of that, right?
Yeah.
And then you need like 30,000 gym points and you get gold. And so one of the things I started doing last summer was I started trying to gold everything in St. Cloud.
Really?
Yeah. And there's about, last I checked, like 270 some gyms in the St. Cloud area.
Yeah.
So that was my goal, is to drive around and gold all these gyms. And now I'm at a point where I'm just golding the new gyms that are coming up. So this whole year I spent golding these 270 some gyms.
Wow.
And on my lunch break, I tend to go drive around. I started doing like some of the smaller towns around St. Cloud.
Yeah.
And so I'll drive there and I'll do these gyms. And me and Rose's coworker, when I said, all right, I'm gonna go take some gyms. And then she's like, how many gyms have you been to? 5. She thought I was actually going to gyms to work out.
Oh.
Like she thought I had like workout problem where I'm going to 5 different gyms. She's like, how many gyms are there in St. Cloud? Like 260. That doesn't seem right.
Just completely off.
Yeah.
Wow. Dang.
And here's the thing, like I'm like with my girlfriend being pregnant, like I'm gaining sympathy weight too. So it's not even working. So I'm going to all these gyms and I'm not even losing weight.
Oh man.
But yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't mess around. If someone's constantly taking me out of gyms, one of the things I'll do is I'll find them and I'll take them out to every gym. And I'm not even the worst one. There's another player in St. Cloud who's he can be pretty bad. Other players know him as like the gym bully.
Really?
Yeah. Where like if you mess with him, he will find you in every single one and knock you out.
So do you know this person or you just?
I know him. He's a nice dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For all the St. Cloud players, they know who Jon Snow is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, named after Game of Thrones. So
Yeah.
they know who the account is. And they don't usually mess with them.
Yeah.
But me and him are cool. He helps me out. I help him out. So.
Okay.
It sounds so intense, but
it can be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Like I haven't played it in like so long.
Yeah.
I forgot it was like a
thing.
I didn't think it was like still.
So here's
going,
the
really.
thing. It's when you think of Pokemon Go, who do you think typically plays Pokemon Go?
Kids.
Like kid,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not kids. It's
Not
the
at all.
opposite.
Yeah.
It's older adults.
that usually like because I remember like I've had every
Yeah.
one, so I was in it. You know what I mean?
A lot of people that I played, the average age is somewhere between 40 and 50.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, I told you the story, Ro.
Yeah.
But I've been jumped by an old man before.
Really?
Yeah, because I took the gym and I wouldn't let him back, and he drove up to me and yelled at me.
Really?
And it didn't happen once; it happened multiple times, and sometimes it'll happen like
So it's serious.
in the middle of the night too.
What?
Like when he says I don't fuck around, because this old man he lives outside of St. Cloud. He'll come in and he doesn't really mess with me a whole lot. He messes with the Jon Snow.
Yeah.
So he messes with, and this is just the account name.
Yeah.
But those two have beef, and he'll go around and he'll like knock him out of his gyms because they have like territory gyms. You don't mess with those. So he'll mess with those gyms, and then he started messing with me too. And then he had like this route, and so like 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm like, all right, I already know where this dude's going. So I'm like following him, but I'm not following him. I'm just following his gyms, and I'm like maybe like 5-10 minutes behind, and I am taking him out of every gym. And then he started taking me out of my gyms because I know where he's going. So I take him back, and then there was a situation where like he was coming back around and I saw him, so I made sure like I hid in my car in the dark alley, turned it off, and he started taking it. And then you can defend your gyms by burying. You feed berries and their hearts go up. Yeah. And so I'm hidden in this corner. Yeah. I can see him in a distance. He's trying to like bite it, and he's looking for me like, where is this dude? Why was he burying it? And I have like 2 accounts at this time too, so he wasn't getting the gym. But the most like satisfying moment is when they drive off angrily.
That's hilarious, dude.
And then 5 minutes later, I went to find him because I was like, I'm tired. I need to go home. Like, dude, can we just have a truce? Like, can I just have these gyms? You can have this one. And that always works. I don't know why I don't just start with that. So here's the thing. You could be aggressive. And I started being aggressive like when I first played. And then I just learned that, like, hey, if you just find them and you just talk to them, most people would agree and help you with it.
But that's the point. I mean, that's the point of competition, right?
It's not as fun.
Yeah.
It's more fun to be a dick. But it's more efficient and more, like, you make more friends by being nice. So I've been doing that more recently.
Yeah, it's a better strategy.
Yeah. Also with gas prices,
I was like, you're literally driving all the way around St. Paul.
Not as much.
St. Cloud. Yeah.
There's this gym like on the side of like Sauk Rapids. It's like in the outskirts of it. And I hate driving. It's like a 10-20 minute drive just to get out there. And I was gonna message the person because he lives there. Yeah. And there's this thing called a coin gym. So after 8 hours, you get your 50 cents or your 50 coins for the day. A friend of mine calls it the 50 cents because it's right. You're basically earning 50 cents a day to spend on raid passes or whatever. And I kept getting taken out. And I'm like, I just want to go to this gym, but I'm sick of driving out. And I was going to message the person, but the person messaged me. He's like, hey, are you gold in this? I'll just leave you in it. I'm like, yes, please. I'm so sick of driving and wasting money going out there. Please leave me in it. It's been 2 days now. I'm very, very thankful for him.
That's interesting, man.
Now I'm waiting for the old man to find it because as soon as he finds it, it's a fucking war going.
See, here's what I find interesting about this, though. I had no idea it was real that. Yeah. So if it's like this out in the cloud, you get where I'm going? Like, I can only imagine what it's like in the cities. Right. Just see somebody, hey, motherfucker!
Like, seriously?
I'm waiting for the. So here's the thing. There's an actual newspaper article about. This is the same dude that jumped me.
Oh my God, this dude.
And also, this dude actually also has ADHD too.
Sure.
So I had some real life talks.
So I feel like you guys are rivals then. That's what it really is.
We're not. I made several truces with him, so I don't know. Last time I seen him, we had a great conversation.
You said truces. Like usually with a truce, it's just one.
No. No, we talked recently. He's like, hey, I saw you in that new gym. I was like, which new gym? He's like, well, this area. I'm like, oh, okay. I left you in it. I'm like, wait, what? Okay. You left me in it? I'm like, why?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, did you take the other people out of the other gym? Oh, yeah, fuck them. It's like, I took them out. I'm like, all right, well, good for you. And then, like, for a day, you left me in it. And then a couple days later, he's like, because my other friends, Jon Snow and my other friend who's they work together. They're like, why is he taking you out? Did you make a truce? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, they're thinking like, I made like another truce with them. And I'm like, nah, you just left me in it. I don't know why.
Just got respect in these streets, right?
I guess. And then 2 days later, it's like, hey, he's no longer leaving you in gyms. I'm like, I see that. All right.
Mind games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
if I
much.
was him, that's what I'd be doing. I'd try to mess with the alliance going on.
Okay. That's fucking hilarious. And it's amazing all at once. I just want to see it in real time. That's what I really want. But
So you've never like even played it?
I've played it, but I'm talking about like this.
Yeah.
Like
It doesn't happen often. It's not like an everyday thing.
you make it sound like it happens. Like you wake up and you're like, all right, who am I fucking up today?
Sometimes, yeah. When I got really into it, but now that I've golded most of the gyms, I've relaxed a lot, especially with like gas price the way it is. It hasn't been like that for a while.
Gas is fucking up the Pokemon Go game.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You can't drive around anymore as much as you want to.
But see, that's why I bring up the cities, because they're scooters. So
Fair.
people not giving a fuck. It's like, I don't need to drive. I gotta go zoomy zoom.
I wish we had scooters. Yeah, that'd be nice.
That'd be sweet, dude.
I think I've seen like one or two of them, but I don't know if it was like someone's
People-
personal
yeah.
scooter or
Yeah.
if it was like, it looked like, what is it called? Not Bird.
Like Lyft or
Like the scooter. There's a certain like brand of scooters. I thought I saw like a specific brand.
Lime?
Yeah.
if you find that, let me know, because been
I
here.
thought I saw like one or two of them, and I was like, oh, I really hope St. Cloud's getting it. But
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry, getting off topic here. Back to the question. Do you have any questions at all, E?
Nah, not about. My brain is on Pokemon now. I got so many.
I mean, I can take you out. I can take you guys out playing. It's. I don't know if it will be that exciting unless the old man strikes. It's not really. It's not that exciting. Typically. Typically, just a bunch of random players that take gyms, and sometimes you can get it. I know certain areas. So I'm Team Mystic, so I'm blue. There's a lot of Valor players, so there would be areas that's mostly Valor. So if you go and mess with those areas, it can get pretty intense pretty fast.
It's gang shit.
Yeah, basically,
it's gang shit.
Basically, I got flicked off by some like random dude because I kept taking his gym.
Okay, it gets real out here. I'm definitely gonna go with you one day. As soon as I know you're gonna say it. One day you're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna hit a couple gyms for lunch. I'm gonna be like, I'm coming too.
Well, I know which gyms to hit if you guys want some conflict. I know which gyms to hit. My friends won't be happy, but I know if I hit those gyms, there'll be conflict.
Here's what I find interesting about Jake. You're a very good dude, and you're very kind. But when it comes to certain things, you're ready for it. Like you want smoke. You do.
Yeah, I don't shy away from smoke.
So that's funny.
Makes life a little more interesting.
That's something. But no, going back to the conversation here,
Yep.
dial it back. Talking about kids and technology. You know, how can I ask this? Where do you think kids are headed, especially for those who have ADHD? Because technology isn't stopping. It's going to continue to grow.
I don't necessarily see technology as like a negative thing. I think it could be very positive. It's just us as a society learning not to be addicted by it and living off of it. And that's getting harder and harder because everything is technology these days.
That's true.
I know parents are like, we're not giving our kids phones until they're 16. Like, good luck with that.
Yes.
Like, it's so easy to give your kids a phone or a tablet or some kind of device.
Dude,
That
I see like toddlers and babies know how to navigate.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Get
Yeah,
to
dude.
YouTube or
Kids, like a lot of my clients, like they're nonverbal, don't know how to talk.
Yeah.
But you give them a tablet, they know how to do everything on
Yeah.
there. It's crazy.
absolutely.
And I don't see it like as a negative thing. It's just learning to adjust and make
It's
sure
just
that
the
we're
times we're
I agree that it's not a bad thing, but it's the way, well, there's just a lot of us. There's a lot of humans on this planet. And not everyone, I hate to say this, but not everyone is conscious in the way where it's like you have to be careful of what you give your kid or what they see and stuff like
for
that.
Sure.
So
it's a lot harder to manage what your kids see or can't see. And parental settings are nice, but if you have a kid who's intelligent enough to get over that, it's so hard to manage what they watch.
Mm-hmm. So then how you say that technology it's not a bad thing, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But how can we use it for something that's more on the positive side?
Yeah, I mean, we see it every day. Like schools now all have like their own laptops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, back in when we went to school, we had computer labs, and we were learning how to use Microsoft Word. We played a lot of like games that way.
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail for sure. I'm trying to think of like I remember the game with like the two fish. I can't think of what it's called.
What?
No. Kids game there's like two fish and you go around and you like answer math problems.
Oh,
Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
vaguely sounds familiar. That
I can't. Yeah. I cannot think of
can't
it.
think
I
of
know
it
what you.
either.
I know what you're talking about.
really showing our age here.
So, like with technology now, like kids, they have laptops. They you know, with school, information in general is crazy now. Like,
Yeah.
Back when I was like, we had to wait like 15, 20 minutes just to get like one little Google search with dial-up internet, or you have to open up an encyclopedia and get information that way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, as we have that opportunity, we just Google anything. Like we have a question, we get it instantly.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful in that way with kids, because if they with homework or anything, or they were like, hey, what is this? Or like, why is this the way it is? They can just Google it.
It's right there.
Yeah, so we live very much in the information age where information is just instant. We have it instantly if we want it. And that, good or bad, I don't know. It's like, I don't really see it as good or bad. Like, I see it for what it is, the pro, but the con of it is like they have that availability for anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a parent, that can be kind of scary. You feel like, oh, my kids can be learning any information, and we can't quite control it.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, there's ways to do parental settings and all that, but it's harder.
Sure. E, with your experience I'm sorry, first I should ask, do you have any questions?
No.
Your experience working, in the high school, I'm kind of curious to know, like, because we talk about challenges and stuff all the time, but what have you seen with the people that you work with? How have they used technology in a positive, especially for people who have behaviors?
I mean, well, it's honestly, it's like, it's just like I said, it is what it is at this point. Like, we use it for so much. Like, it's it's all positive, really. The only negative part of being in the school with technology is kids on phones. You know what I mean? On phones at the wrong time, like during class, and that's really the only issue. But
It's a distraction.
it's a distraction, yeah. And as far as just using the technology, there's so much now, man. It's like so much they can do. You know what I mean? Lessons, like everything, and then like behavior stuff. It's just kind of finding, that whatever can occupy them in that moment. Just kind of, what do you call it? Like reset them, redirect.
Yeah, redirect.
Yeah. So no, but it's technology is like, it's all positive. It's just like I said, like how you use it and how much. Like you won't do a whole class lesson on using it, but it was hard kind of because when we went online, that's all we had,
Yeah.
So it made it a little harder, but yeah, it's just like it's a lot of give and take with it, like you get what you get out, you get out of it what you put into it,
Sure, got you. Okay, I think you've answered all of my questions, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This was very informal. I would
Yeah.
say that I learned a lot.
Yeah. I do have one last question for you. Do you have basically like any words of wisdom or any advice for the future generation out here coming up?
Yeah. Just in general, or
when it comes to behaviors, but specifically around ADHD?
yeah. I guess I don't like have any like specific. For those who have ADHD, like as an adult, just learn what you can and try to be very aware of your own problems and figure out ways to solve it in a healthy manner. So figuring out hobbies that are healthy, not necessarily trying to rely on substances. Realize how it affects your everyday life. I guess we didn't really talk about how it does affect like my everyday life too.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the.
Well,
If we have time.
Yeah, we got time. How does it affect your everyday life?
Also, and can you add to that? Like, do you have any time where you felt like it kind of held you back from anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
A whole lot, honestly. So, where do I begin? So, I'll just start with one of my hobbies. I really like writing.
Okay.
So, I've written a lot of different comic book scripts.
Yeah.
So, I have like 20 or 30 titles that I have started and haven't finished.
Really?
And that's one of the things that what happens is like I'm really good at like coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
And we can talk about a podcast idea that I have too, because you mentioned that. I love creating stories.
Yeah.
To me, that's like an easy thing. You give me a prompt, and maybe not so much on the spot. That's also an ADHD thing. Whereas if you get put on the spot, your brain just goes blank.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can do it on the spot, but typically, if I come up with a prompt, it's not hard to come up with a story.
Yeah.
But what's hard for me is it's writing that down. It's taking the time to write out papers. I struggle writing.
Okay.
Not so much because I can't write and I'm not good at it. It's more just the fact that like I have my motivation to do it. I will write down how many pages, but somewhere along the way, I just lose it.
Yeah.
Especially with phones and technology. This is where technology is bad. Or like the phone, because I'm constantly looking at the phone, and as soon as I've seen something, boom, I'm lost for like 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it takes me a lot to get back. So that's one of the struggles that I have is when I try to go back to a paper or going back to work documents, if I'm going back to writing the stories that I want to write, even though I have this one issue, this one story it's called Maze. I have 8 issues written, nothing's drawn. I've been working on issue 9 for 3 years.
Really?
And every time I get back to it, even though I have the outline, even though I know exactly how the story goes, I just can't find myself to write the dialogue because it's a really plot-heavy issue, and I have a hard time just writing it down because I'm always constantly in my head of, all right, how do I want to write it? How do I want to work it? It's not fun anymore. It's like work, and it's hard for me. That bridge is like almost gone. It's hard for me to cross it. So yeah, it definitely holds me back. My last job that I did, I was a behavior consultant. It's a lot of paperwork. So it's a lot of paperwork, especially what we don't have, like, it was just 2 of us for the most part. There was 3, but the person who got me the job, she left. So there's just 2 of us. And it's very much like at our organization, the BCBAs, they do what they call functional behavior assessments.
Yeah.
That's what we mostly focus on. And so it's just a lot of writing. And it takes my supervisor, the person that I worked with, it takes them like 4 hours to write a certain like document or 245D documents or whatever we're working on. It takes me like twice as long because I don't have like the motivation to do it.
Yeah.
It's challenging, it's new, but it's not an interest of mine. And if there's not really a deadline, like we make our own deadlines. And so it was really hard for me to get those papers done. It's really hard for me to get those documents, especially when you work with people who have a very particular way of doing things.
Yeah.
It's hard. So I struggle with that a lot, and I end up like going to therapy too. To like, hey, what are some techniques for me to help me out get through that little? Because I'll literally just stare at the computer for like hours, and that's what I would go to work, and it's all I have to do is just write this document. It takes my supervisor like 2-3 hours to do it. It takes me like the entire day, and sometimes I don't even finish because I'm just there, staring, and I just can't find myself a way to do it.
Yeah, that's tough. And I mean, even when you actually get yourself to do it, right?
Yeah,
it took so much energy. You're just done.
you are. Yeah, and I'll come home and I'm just stressed.
Yeah.
Like that, the 6 so months I worked there, I was just straight up just stressed constantly.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. And I guess I find that very interesting. Shit, I should look into this a little more for myself. But for me, I've been diagnosed with like anxiety, and it can get pretty bad. But I noticed that when it comes to certain things like that, not how it used to be, but projects or even just functional assessments, I would find myself doing that as well. Either I'm putting it off or just in a blank stare.
Yeah.
And then actually doing it, like, I'm glad I got it done, but I'm tired. And I'm already thinking about the next one. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, because like that's just one, and you have how many other documents too, and that
Yeah.
was like the same with that job too. It's like, all right, that's one of 20 projects that's in the line, and I'm struggling with this one, and then there's 20 in the future, and that's just the constant with that job. And so it gets easier. There's definitely techniques to help me with that, and like the therapist that I saw like help me with that. One of it's like listening to music, and not necessarily like music that is that but like more atmospheric music, not a whole lot of lyrics, or it's like new music where I can just zone out. Chewing gum helps.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because it gives. So with ADHD, like typically you have like 2 pockets of your brain that you have like entertain essentially. So if you're focusing on a paper, you have another piece of your brain that's like in la la land, like they're thinking. But if you listen to music or if you chew gum, it occupies that second spot of the brain.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things is like like I can be fully engaged in something, but there's always like a second part of my brain that's like elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so conversations is hard, and I feel like I mastered the art of like making it seem like I'm paying attention. And for you guys, I'm definitely engaged. This is new, but when it comes to
You don't have to lie, man. It's okay. It's okay, dude.
but so I do it with my parents a lot, and I feel bad. So my parents, they tend to tell stories that they always you guys know this, or you guys probably experienced this.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Dad, I heard the story like the 6 times already. But my dad's like, no, let me tell you again. It's like, all right. So when this is happening, I mastered the art of listening, nodding my head, and my brain's elsewhere. Like, I'm not paying attention. I don't know what he's saying. Actually, I do know what he's saying. It's the same story over and over and over again. But yeah, so that's one of the things that I have a hard time sometimes paying attention when it comes to the conversations, or if it's like in school, that was a hard thing for me to do, was paying attention. I remember chemistry in high school. Loved the teacher. He was very entertaining, but like I just didn't care about learning about chemistry.
Yeah.
And he was very much a teacher where if you don't learn the first day, it's just, you're lost. Yeah. And that was something that I struggled with because my brain.
That subject too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I'm not interested, so like I'm elsewhere. I'm creating a story typically, or something.
You're working on something else, basically, up here.
And
Makes
then
sense.
my other part of the brain, it's pretending like it's engaging with whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's another way that ADHD is part of everyday life. Okay. And it's learning, especially when it is very important. It's learning to like, hey, you got to pay attention.
Yeah, how do you bring yourself back? Those are the things that you got to work on.
You just got to catch yourself. Like
mindfulness, basically.
Yeah, just being aware. Mm-hmm. We can touch on the relationships too, because I know that was like a key topic we mentioned. Yeah.
So I mean, there was one thing that I was thinking about. Talked about impulsiveness, right?
Yep.
That was connected to something else that you said, and I thought it was interesting. Like, you're trying to, I know we're jumping around, but you mentioned having like a desire for something, like you're trying to satisfy a part of you, right?
Yeah.
A want, basically. Mm-hmm. So would a relationship fall in that same category?
Yeah, it's so hard.
Okay.
So this is the struggle with relationships, and I always thought it was like me. But learning about ADHD again, or like relearning this, just as you guys know, 2 years ago, I had an ADHD episode where I had a few of them actually within a couple short months, and I think I realized I have it often, but I don't realize it myself unless somebody calls it out. Mm-hmm. And it's a situation. It's basically where I can't keep it on one topic. I'm like a squirrel, constantly going here, here, here. I just remember being with a friend. I had one beer. We all had one beer. I was going to Wendy's, and for some reason, I was like up here, like I was just bouncing, and he was driving, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but I kept switching the subject. Like if I saw a billboard, I'm like, oh, that's an interesting billboard. Oh, look at that car. Oh, look at the trees over there. Like I kept bouncing. He's like, are you drunk? Like, did you get drunk off one beer? I'm like, no. I shouldn't be drunk. I don't think I'm drunk. I had no idea what was going on. So I was bouncing, and I had no idea what was happening. A couple of months later, I was hanging out with a lady friend, and we were trying to figure out what to eat. And for some reason, she wanted me to pick where we were going. Yeah. I freaking hate choosing. Like, I don't care where we eat. I love food. Like, I will eat anything.
Yeah.
Not so much like today, but like I will eat anything. And we were trying to figure out where to eat, and I just couldn't keep on the same subject. It took me like an hour, or it took us an hour to figure it out because I kept switching the subject. And like, Burger King would be good. Cows, this. And like it just I kept going down the rabbit holes. And she just turned to me and was like, Jake, what's going on? Like you just keep bouncing around. It's like you have ADHD. And like in that moment it clicked. It was like, shit, no, I do have ADHD. I just forgot about it for 17 years or whatever it was. And it wasn't until recently where I started doing more research and I realized all these issues stem from ADHD. A lot of it was relationships and jobs in itself. It works kind of the same. Those 4 planks of motivation. I used to say pillars, but planks makes more sense. Yeah, that's very much when it comes to like relationships, when it comes to jobs, it's very much there because after a certain point, and I didn't know this until recently, like it is an ADHD thing. There's like a 2 to 4 year window where you just get bored of the relationship, and it's not like because of the other person. It's just it's no longer new. It's not so much challenging because after a few like years or months or whatever it is, you kind of find your groove.
Yeah,
and things just slow down. But like you just don't get the same like sensation as before.
Yeah, so that's the thing that I was wondering about. I mean, we talk about relationships a lot, and one of the things that we even discuss is the levels or the stages of a relationship, right? So for someone who has ADHD and they're in a relationship for some time, they're used to it. Do you have this like gap where you're just not into it anymore because the honeymoon phase is done? You're no longer infatuated?
Yeah. So the honeymoon phase is like the greatest phase of the relationship. Not the greatest phase, but like it's the most exciting. So
it's a high.
Yeah, you're learning the new person. Like you just want everything to do with that person. Like you have free time, they have free time. Yeah, let's spend it together. Whereas once that high is over and you start to like living with the person, especially when you don't have like milestones to achieve, you know, because initially there's like those milestones, right? There's the honeymoon phase, there's the getting to know each other phase, learning family, different friends, and then you move in together, maybe you get engaged, maybe you get married. But at a certain point in between those milestones, there's like a gap of nothing, right? There's nothing to really look forward to. Maybe there's not like a vacation, like there's just like that gap. And like when that gap happens, that's when it kind of, there's like a lull period in the relationship.
Out of curiosity, when it comes to a situation like that, the gap part, right? And I mean, it could be anybody who's diagnosed with something, but since we're talking about ADHD, when it comes to this particular time, does chaos come in?
It can.
Okay.
It can. Not so much from like my relationships. Usually it gets I get dull, I would say. Like I get into a point where like I'm just living life.
Yeah.
I come home if I'm living with the person. Like I'm not looking to learn from the person. I'm just like, hey, let's just chill. Like let's watch TV, let's hang out, let's play video games. And I think like I just get stuck in that phase, like me in particular. But here's the thing about ADHD, like there's a higher chance of like cheating. So those who have ADHD, they are more likely to cheat on their lover because they're looking for that high.
Yeah.
And that's something that I never really had a problem with, but like earlier in the relationship, so my past relationship, my first main relationship, I did ended up breaking up with a girl because I was so interested in everybody else. Because I started like that's when I started like coming into myself. It's when I started got my confidence kind of came in, and I was very, and I was no, that was afterwards.
Just got to think about it.
I had to think about it a little bit, but no, I just like my confidence came in, and I was getting a lot more interest from females, and it wasn't like I love this person, like I very much loved her, but it was like it just wasn't satisfying for me. I was bored, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't know what it was until about like until recently. I didn't know why I wanted to break up with her, but I did, and it was to essentially date, and that we took a break. That's what I said. Like I don't know what I want right now. I just know like I'm bored. I'm not getting what I need, and I'm just interested in other people. So I want to take a break. I want to start dating other people and figure out what I want. And at the time, I didn't know. But now looking back, it's like, yeah, I was bored. I hit that phase where we're in the lull, and I was searching for that satisfaction elsewhere.
It's very interesting that you touch on that, because for people our age, or even like young adults, I'd say coming up, not number one, but one of the main questions that's always asked is like, why do people cheat?
Yeah.
And people kind of give their reasons, whatever, but you're saying from this stance, like talking about ADHD, it's deeper than just, I want to fuck around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're searching for that high. We're searching for that that satisfaction that we once had, and that relationship that we were currently in. I've never cheated. I've never.
Sure.
I've had moments where I wanted to, but I've never done it myself. But I've ended relationships because of that reasoning.
Well, I mean, at least you recognize that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was just like a morale standpoint. I never wanted to cheat. Like I just didn't want to do that to a person.
I respect it. Sir, do you have any questions? I see the gears turning.
Yeah, no, I'm good though.
All right.
Yeah, but
Processing.
to touch back a little bit too, workplace is also very similar to relationships.
Yeah.
And that aspect of
That's very true.
Yeah.
depending on like where I'm at, like if it's a job where it's like the same thing over and over and over again, I can't do it. Like I have like maybe a year where I'm fine, I'm a great employee, but after that, it's not like I still do the job, I still do like the primary what I need to do, but I get bored, and if I get bored, like I'm not gonna do like the secondary
Above and
stuff.
beyond. And
Like I'm just there. I'm here for a paycheck.
Yeah.
I'll be satisfactory, but like nothing else.
See, okay, that's funny. Not to switch gears too much. Yesterday, I thought about you, and in our time as friends, I thought about when you got the job at Fridley, and I was like, that man has been there for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So, talking about this, like boredom and stuff, what is it like for you now compared to how it was before in the beginning?
I mean, it's different because I'm doing different. I'm in a different position. You know what I mean? So
You switched it up, like you moved around.
Yeah. So actually teaching, is just
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
different than being like a para or behavior. So it's different. I can here and there like this. It just like this been a crazy year. You know what I mean? So it's kind of fucked up for everybody. But it's I actually like just enjoy what I do. You know what I mean? Like, cause no day is the same when you work with kids. Y'all know that. Like, you never know what you're gonna get. So it's like it's interesting. Like it's been cool though. Like I enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like that's why I really enjoy this field because
Yeah.
no day is the same.
Yeah.
And the job that I was thinking of when I was explaining where I get bored, I was working in a kitchen in a hospital, and it was like in my first like few years, I was all over the place. Like I had managers fighting for me like in different positions, but as soon as I got stuck into a corner, like a little corner, and like this is your place of work, and you're gonna do nothing else for your time here, then I got bored. But this. Working with kids, like no day's the same.
No.
And it definitely switches it up.
Well, shit. I mean, that even makes me think about people in corporate jobs, right? They're stuck in a cubicle.
Yeah.
And you kind of hear stories over there of what happens. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And words of wisdom, like if you have ADHD, just find a job that entertains you.
Yeah.
Find a job that is different. Find a job that you're more or less satisfied with, and it's and that can find a job that occupies both spaces of your brain. And I would say our job definitely does.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah.
I saw the look in your face. I'm like, oh yeah. I bet.
All right. Should we do last call?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. You've been listening to our podcast, so you got an idea of what last call is?
Recap.
So last call is basically where we recap our conversations and what our final thoughts are, what we sort of take away from a session. You want to start?
No, you start. I got so much from this conversation.
Like I can see it. Yeah. It's happening. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that we discussed. But one thing that I got to take away from is talking about relationships and that high that you're talking about, right? A lot of people, we all know about infatuation and stuff like that, but the deeper meaning, the deeper reasoning, I think that is overlooked a lot. We don't understand why we're kind of searching for that.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening, I would even just say, take a moment, stop, and reflect. Like, why do you want to pursue this relationship, or why do you want this person? Because I've said it multiple times, you have to be careful of who you're getting involved with. They could fuck up your life. Or even the other way around, you could fuck up theirs.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I think that's younger me. I wish I had that advice and would take it in, because there's a lot of relationships where I look back, I'm like, why was I with this person?
Yeah.
And I can answer that question now, but it would be very important to answer that then. And it would help me kind of break up relationships that I shouldn't have been in the first place.
Yeah.
So I like that.
What do you got, E?
I think just it's kind of just like how you put it. It's real important to like just kind of know yourself and know who you are, and that's kind of like what I got from that. Like you seem like you're very aware. You know what I mean, and that's like super important, especially like when you're dealing with like day-to-day stuff, like people, like work. Like you just gotta know, like, all right, I can handle this and I can't handle this right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of just separating yourself if need be, and that's just interesting to me, man. Like, just like say you're in, like for me, I do a lot. Like you mentioned you started a bunch of comics and haven't finished. I do that a lot, where I got some ideas, but I just never follow up.
Yeah.
Or never just follow through with them.
Yep.
And so that's just one thing I'm working on myself as well. So just kind of getting into my own awareness. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Right, don't try to take on too much, or maybe you can take on a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just kind of find that balance. Finding that balance,
Yep.
I think it's important, man. So yeah, that's it's pretty interesting.
Knowing your limitations. Knowing your
limitations. I like that. Yeah.
So it's really important. And I guess like figuring out what motivates you too. Figuring out like, hey, I want to do these things. So I know I listened to the episode that you guys recapped Kendrick Lamar's new album.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned you want to do paintings.
Yeah.
How's that going, by the way?
Not too bad.
I get that. I've been there. I'm doing that now.
Not too good. And it's crazy because I got time right now. Like,
yeah.
And so now I'm like, I tell myself every day, like, all right, man, let me just go pick up some canvases, or and just like once I have it, but it's just the point, just the process right now for me. It's really
getting across that motivation bridge.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have ADHD to have problems with crossing that.
Right.
So I think the big takeaway is just understanding like there's that bridge. Sometimes it's hard. Like, one, forgiving yourself if you can't cross it, because
That's a big one. That's a big one. Yeah.
Especially if you have ADHD, you have less planks to work with. If you're, I guess, normal or neurotypical, or I guess everyone has problems. So it's
right.
Yeah.
But like knowing your problems, knowing your limitations, and realizing like, okay, I want to cross this bridge. How many planks do I have? Do I have enough to cross it? And if you have enough to cross it, like being able to push yourself to do it and finding that motivation to get across.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's some wise words. That's it. E, can you bring us home?
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another episode of Symposium Podcast, episode 73. Thanks to our guest, Jake, here for coming through and spreading that knowledge on us. I go by the name E. Wright.
Rose Gold,
We are the Symposium Podcast. Till next time.
episode 73. See y'all later. We out.